Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
We're here at Hydra Restaurant in the Cabana Room where we love to film this show.
We sure do. And boy, it's already late July. Where has the summer gone?
Yes, and it's certainly a little bit warm outside.
It is. Well, we know where the show is going. It's coming to you right after this.
This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Marcia Lederman is an award-winning journalist. She is the Western Arts reporter, correspondent for the Globe and Mail. She has spent years at CBC as an anchor, as a reporter, as a talk show host. She is also the child of Holocaust survivors. Her latest book, debut, doing very well, is called Kiss the Red Stairs, The Holocaust Once Removed. She is also a colleague of mine from the Vancouver Critics Circle. It is a great pleasure to have you here, Marcia Lederman.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're quite welcome.
Very excited having you here. Congratulations on the success of your book.
Thank you.
We're loving it. And there's a quote in the book, I'm going to jump right into it, that really kind of sums up the book, I would say. And the horrific past that I haven't lived, but that I think lives in me. Very, poignant. How did the book come about?
Well, that's a great quote that you've just chosen, because it is sort of it's the thesis statement, I guess, for the book. Because, well, my parents were Holocaust survivors, as you mentioned. My mother survived Auschwitz. My father survived a work camp in the ghetto and survived near execution and bribed a guard and managed to live. So there's a lot of trauma in their lives. And at some point in my life, it was presented to me that perhaps the trauma that they had experienced was somehow affecting me and my moods and the way I saw the world and the way I dealt with people. And I was a bit dismissive of that to begin with, but in recent years, I've taken a very deep dive into this question of intergenerational trauma and, something that you haven't lived but lives in you. And I believe that, yes, it does live in me in some ways.
We were talking about this before we went on camera, our crew here, about how that generation where they didn't talk a lot about it. And you had your mom on your radio show back in 1998, I believe. But reading about your parents, and there's so much is just momentary little pieces of luck, humanity of some people. And I don't want to get into detail because I don't want to spoil it for our viewers who will pick it up. But just like, for example, your father who was just looking for help from a city official in Poland, and it's his wife who shows the humanity. Your mom getting to be a laborer, like that's a reward, but it saves her life. Talk about how, did that stuff ever really get discussed in depth? I said before that they didn't really talk about it.
So they did actually talk about what happened to them, but it wasn't like they sat us down and said, children, gather round, we're going to tell you the horrific stories of our wartime experiences. It was more, it would come out in little drips and drabs, like often around the question of food. If we didn't want to eat something, we heard about how little food they had during the war. And it was always presented that way during the war. It was almost this cloud that lived over us, but that we maybe didn't understand that well. What I had to do in the end as I was writing this book is, because I didn't ask them enough questions, because I never got the sequence from A to Z, I had to piece it together through what I remembered, what my sisters remembered, which was a lot more than I had remembered, and some documents that we could find, some things that they had left, and the odd interview that my mother had done. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was a detective into my own family history.
Yeah,
you certainly were. And you delve into epigenetics too, which I imagine is going to be facing a lot of people in the next few generations with a lot of the wartime stuff that's happening now. Talk a little bit about how you uncovered that to be a part of this book.
Sure. So in let's say the 1960s, just to go back a little bit, there became some awareness that children of Holocaust survivors might be suffering some problems that might be related to what had happened to their parents. And the thinking was that the parents had been so traumatized that their parenting skills were compromised and thus the children were affected, which I believe to be true. But around 2015, there was a very large, not a very large, but there was a very well publicized study that came out that looked at this subject at the biological level. And there were these headlines that said, children of Holocaust survivors inherit parents' trauma. Children of Holocaust survivors have trouble bouncing back from trauma. And I was reading these headlines and thinking, oh my goodness, is that me? Is that why I've been having some troubles in my life? And the thinking is that yes, I mean, at least some studies have shown that there is a mark that is left on the person who's traumatized by the Holocaust or war or many other things, residential schools, and that is passed down genetically to the offspring and perhaps beyond that.
You talk about your mom being in Auschwitz, Treblinka, Bergen-Belsen, or no, just
Buchenwald.
Buchenwald, thank you.
Treblinka is where all my grandparents were murdered.
Okay, but the way your parents somehow in the midst of all this horror and post-World War chaos meet, give us a few seconds of that.
Sure,
It's beautiful.
It's really amazing. My mother was on a death march and was liberated by the US Army on April 1st, 1945. It was Easter Sunday and it was Passover. She was in a town called Kaunitz, Germany. My father had survived the last 2.5 years of the war, living on a farm about 60 kilometers away from there, pretending to be a Catholic named Tadeusz Rudnicki, and his real name was Jacob Lederman. He had these false papers, and he heard that hundreds of Jewish women had been liberated in this place, Kaunitz. He wanted to find his sister, Devora. He went looking for his sister. Unfortunately, his sister had been murdered at Treblinka, but he met my mom. And he met her in the hospital, weirdly, because he was visiting a friend and she had been in a motorcycle accident. I guess she was having fun after being liberated, and my God, she deserved it. And my mother her face was bandaged up the whole time he got to know her, but they fell in love that way. And the bandages came off and the love continued to spark, and they got married in Germany and had their first of 3 daughters in Germany.
Almost like a pen pal.
Sort of.
Hey, congratulations on this. And it's great, as you mentioned in the preface of the book, that you have a 13-year-old son, Jacob. This is kind of a documentation for him, because you didn't have that. So this is wonderful. So we'll hold this up here. Here's the book from Marcia, right there. Look for it. Is there a website where people can find out more information?
Yeah, well, they can go to my website, marcialederman.ca, or they could go to the Penguin Random House Canada website.
There it is. Look for the brand. The book just came out this past spring. Marcia, thank you for joining us on the show. Congratulations on this great book. Continued success.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Good to have you.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Well, as we head into the latter part of a lazy, relaxed summer, it's been a while since we've done a food segment here at Hedra, where we've been basing our show over the last 6-7 months. Christian McFadden is joining us right now. He is the GM here. And Chris, you have put out a great selection of food here. Let's work around the room as to what people can enjoy the rest of the summer.
Beautiful. We got our salt-baked sea bass here, which we do tableside. We debone everything tableside, which is absolutely amazing. But we wanted to showcase that meat in the summer is a beautiful thing, and a leg of lamb is an amazing dish that we offer.
I love your lamb here.
Shared at the table, which is great. Our souvlaki platter with prawns, salmon, chicken, and steak. strip loin. And then our village flatbread, which has just been newly created at the restaurant, which is beautiful. But we really wanted to showcase the essence that summertime isn't a reason why you shouldn't eat big hearty meals.
Spectacular oyster selection here.
Incredible.
And also, this is right here, the very first thing I ever had at Hydra when you opened, I think 5-6 years ago.
Just 4 years now.
4 years, yeah. It's the salad here. Let's talk about the wines we've got here as the sun is starting to break through on a Friday afternoon.
Good, we're super...
You're really excited about the wine program you have here.
We're at about 300 labels on the list now, which has taken some time. Mark Featherstone, our wine director, has done an incredible job curating this list, from flagship wines like Scream Eagle down to our most heartfelt local wines of Martin's Lane, La Stella, La Vue Pin. But for a couple features, we're doing Honada the Pairing as a red feature exclusively, and Pascal Jolivet's Sancerre Sauvignon Blanc for a feature for the next month or two, just to showcase some of the higher tier of what we're offering.
And we should also give a little tribute to your happy hour wine, which I've always loved here. You've got a great selection.
Beautiful. We always want to make sure that the quality is precise on what we do as a program. So we're incredibly excited. But the pairing with the wines and the meat that we're offering, we're excited. August 7th, we'll be at Brewing the Beast.
Talk about that if you could, please.
Which is amazing. So an incredible Vancouver event that's been going on for quite a few years. COVID obviously took it out for a little bit.
Right.
But we're excited that we're going to be a part of that and showcasing some of these beautiful dishes there.
You guys have some staples, as you've been pointing out, on your menu, but heading into the fall, mixing things up a bit. I know that you guys, as a team, don't like to get complacent. You're bringing new things in, but keeping staples. Talk about what you guys have that maybe people had not seen before.
And I think really the evolution of where you see the season become, well, it's been a different summer, right? It's a cooler summer, right? So that may change where, fall takes us, but we definitely are inspired by the season for everything that we do.
He's Christopher McFadden, part of the great team here at Hydra, thanks to Claire and everybody else.
Beautiful. And I need to give one little shout out to Jack Danger. We're all thinking of you at Hydra here. Just wanted to let you know. See you soon.
Okay. Jack
Danger.
Okay.
This is Claire's little boy.
Oh.
Yeah. But he wanted a little shout out today, so I thought I would give him one.
Well, his parents look after us often, so yes, good to see Jack. Okay. And thank you for this. Come check out Hydra, and we'll get right back to our city tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, we hope you're enjoying the show. We just want to take a moment to let you know that we have a great print version of our show available.
We do. We actually have 2 of them. You can check out our latest column in Iconic Concierge magazine. You're looking at the cover right there, and there's our column. Iconic Concierge, the print version of Our City Tonight. Magazine's available now. Let's get back to the show. Well, if you're a fan of British football, or as we call it, soccer, the new EPL season is starting in the next week. I want to say August 5th or 6th.
5th or 6th.
5th or 6th,
5th,
yes, pretty accurate on that. My good friend is here. He is the GM at Homer Street Cafe, where I do like to spend a lot of time, but he's also our go-to soccer or football expert. Steve Edwards joins us now. Steve, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. I don't know if I'd say expert, but I'm certainly good at the game.
Well, I'm always peppering you with questions for our fans out there. A new season starting. For my money, the best league in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the big teams here. Of course, City, Liverpool. I'd like to say our team, Arsenal. We're both Gunner fans, but
big team.
Yeah. What do you think of City this year? They've lost some players, but they are holding strong because they've added players.
Oh, I think they've done a really good bit of business. Really, the signing Alan and so early. I think it really was inevitable because, to be really honest, I was surprised he went to Dortmund before going to City.
Yeah.
I thought he'd go directly to City. It was his dad played there for years. It just seemed like it was inevitable, But I think a really, really good bit of business. They got him for about £50 million, which is pretty incredible. I'm sure there's lots of add-ons, but then to turn around and sell us, Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus for 45. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm really happy to have him. But,
I'm very happy to have him, but it was the reason maybe for leaving that he wanted to play more? I mean, he's a great player, but in
Absolutely.
City, he's amongst many, many great players.
Yeah, and the way Pep plays as well, right? Like he just didn't play him as an out-and-out striker, and I think maybe he'll have he plays off the wing, right? He'll have an opportunity to do that at Arsenal. I mean, look, in his first game against Nuremberg, he bagged 2 goals right off the bat, right? I mean, a minute and a half into his career and he's already scoring for Arsenal. I'll take that 10 times out of 10.
We've got Liverpool who lost Mane.
They did.
But they're picking up players as well. Do you see them? City and Liverpool are the 2 biggies. But
we'll see how Darwin Nunez fits into their program. You know, hopefully he'll slot into where Mane was for them anyway. And then they signed Salah on a new deal, so he's locked in for them. And then when you look at how good Diaz was when he came in the wintertime, it's like they still have a lot of attacking force there. So they'll certainly be a threat.
One of the teams that I like to jab because it's just what you do. It's like jabbing the Yankees or the Cowboys in other leagues. But United, they got a new coach.
They do.
A lot of pressure, a lot of money being spent. At the time we're taping this, we're about a week before it airs, so there's been no word on Ronaldo.
Not yet.
The word is he wants out.
It does, yeah. He announced earlier this week that he would like to go.
Yeah.
It's not the same club that he left, and
he doesn't want to play in
he's
Europa
not happy.
either.
You know what he did? He scored goals, but he didn't help the team, and that's kind of what he's done at the last couple of teams that he's played in as well.
Yeah.
So he got 18 goals last year, but look where the team finished. I'm super happy that Arsenal finished above them. I'll tell you that.
Oh yes, because it allows us some bragging rights for a few more months. What do you think of the new coach?
Erik ten Hag. Well, he was actually questioned a couple of years ago when he was at Ajax if he would take Ronaldo or Messi, and he was like, no, they're way too old. So and this was when they were like 33 and 35 respectively. That was a couple years ago. So I don't see him thinking that Cristiano's going to slot into this team. There's a lot of rumors and a lot of people leaving United as well. The older guys, Matic and Mata, and they've served their time well there. I mean, even Mata had a pretty great goal last year, but he had a pretty decent season. But and then Pogba, of course, going back to Turin to go back to Juventus. But I think Ten Hag's going to have to clean house, and I think he's got a big job ahead of him.
And not a lot of time.
Not a lot. No, not with United.
Of course, our team being Arsenal, our creative consultant just off camera, Neil Jones, is a Spurs fan. Boo. And we got Chelsea, so we got our teams all looking in the window trying to get up there. Do you see our guys bring, or let's talk about Chelsea.
So Chelsea, I mean, Lukaku was a big flop, so they really need to strengthen up front, right? So if, talks of Ronaldo going there, I can't really see that happening, but, we'll see how that all transpires. They need some more attacking options. They've been linked with a whole heap of different players, and they're doing a lot of business. They really want to get back on top with Tuchel, and we'll see, what happens. So
the one thing I love about soccer in Europe and England, for unlike North American teams, is that you get this promotion demotion, and this year we've got 3 teams coming up: Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth is back up, and Fulham are back up. Who do you think is going to be one to watch? We had some teams have come up and stayed up for a long time, have done very well.
There have been a few teams. Leicester comes to mind, obviously, in the last decade of coming up and really killing it. I was really sad when Bournemouth went down, and to see Eddie leave, it was get pushed out after what he did with that team from the beginning. I'm glad to see that they're back up. They're a pretty big club, and they're nice to see in the Prem. I think Fulham 2 years ago spent £150 million on players, and to go back down, I was surprised. Well, they should come back up immediately with those players, but we'll see how they do in the Premier League. They could go right back down.
One thing I like about Premiership too is you mentioned Bournemouth, who have a stadium that I think seats 13,000, and playing in the same league as teams that have 75,000, which says a lot about the league. You just mentioned me. I've spent years watching the Premiership on Saturday mornings on TSN and Sportsnet. It moved to DAZN or DAZN. It's now moving again to Fubo TV, which you just got. We're not trying to plug them, but you said looks pretty good.
It does look pretty good. I mean, they've got a lot of programming that I had no idea that they had. So, I got it for the Prem. I need to see my games.
That's true. Well, and I should say, for people that don't get that, you can still watch the games on NBC on Saturday morning. Steve Edwards is the GM at Homer Street Cafe, and our soccer experts. We'll see how his predictions turn out. We'll have him back probably just before World Cup. It's the first time where World Cup is not interrupting a summer. It'll take place later this year, and the season will be shutting down for a month in November. Which is unbelievable. So we'll have Steve back with his predictions on World Cup later this year. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, I hope you're enjoying the show. I just want to mention, don't forget to check out one of our print versions of Our City Tonight at the Richmond Sentinel. This is available in print as well as on their website online. Now, back to the show.
Well, we have certainly had many authors on the show over the years, but we have never started a segment out with an author like this. Take a look.
Number 2 on the New York Times print hardcover list, and number 3 on the bestseller combined print and ebook list.
I can't believe we did it.
What you're looking at is a first-time author discovering she has made the New York Times bestseller list. And it is a great thrill to welcome that author to our show. Coming to us from Phoenix, TJ Newman, who has a book that is just, well, Lita and I haven't slept in the last 3 days because we've been reading this book right here, Falling. That's what it's called. TJ, welcome to Our City Tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I apologize for the lack of sleep. I owe you both a cup of coffee.
Anyway, that's all good. That's what an author wants to hear, that the reader isn't sleeping because they can't put the book down.
Absolutely. Now, TJ, the story of actually how you wrote the book is almost as intriguing as the book itself. Tell us a little bit, share with the viewers a little bit about that whole journey. And I guess persistence is kind of the common theme through that.
Yeah, I was a flight attendant for 10 years before I became a writer. And I had the idea for this book at work when I was working a flight. I was working a red eye to New York from Los Angeles, which is also the flight in the book. And I was standing at the front of the cabin, looking out into the plane at the passengers who are all asleep because it's a red eye. And it's dark and it's cold and it's quiet. And I had this thought that their lives and my life, all of our lives, are in the hands of the pilots. And for the first time, I think of the flip side of that, which is that with that much power and responsibility, how vulnerable does that make a pilot? And so I couldn't shake the thought. And a few days later, I just threw out to the captain that I was fine with that trip a what if scenario. Hey, what would you do if, I don't know, you're working a flight, and you find out that your family's been kidnapped, and you've been told that if you don't crash the plane, they would be killed. What would you do? And the look on his face terrified me because he didn't have an answer. And that was the moment that I knew I had the makings of my first book. And that is the crux of the content, the concept that is Falling.
Wow, gave me goosebumps just hearing you, and I'm already into the book, obviously.
The other thing, and you just kind of showed it, TJ. So often you want to say, tell me what it's about, and you got one sentence. Like the legendary story about how Jaws was sold, or how Aliens was sold. The first one was like, it's Jaws in space. Boom, that's all I need to know. You come up with a premise that's so simplistic, and this is what it is. I know what I'm getting, and just reading the jacket, I knew what I was getting. We're not giving anything away by any means, but that really is what is so great about this book you've written is that it's just, here's the premise. It's one sentence. Go.
It's a simple concept, and I think it's also a very relatable concept. Not that all of us are commercial pilots or have ever been or will ever be in a situation like that, but we've all flown and we all have family. And it's very easy as a reader to put yourself in the position of, well, what would I do? And I think that that's part of why people are really picking up on this book and really enjoying this story, is because it's very easy to put yourself in the character's shoes.
Now, TJ, you had a lot of rejection in getting this book published, but now you're in a really safe place, we'd like to say, because you've had a lot of support. Tell us a little bit about that support with your fellow authors as well at your publishing agency.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was, as you said, it was a long road to get to this point. It's incredible to be where I am, but the path to get here was, I wrote over 30 drafts of this book, and I was rejected by 41 different literary agents before I got my one and only yes from my 42nd submission, which was to Shane Salerno of the Story Factory. And once I got involved there, I was just embraced in this unbelievably supportive writing community that has just meant the world to me and has been a huge part of the success of this book. There's an incredible crime writing community on Twitter that is just constantly uplifting and supporting one another, and that's how a lot of the word of mouth got started. Was Don Winslow, who's a fellow author at the Story Factory, has been just championing not just me, but so many up and coming authors that don't have the big, visibility that established authors have. And it's been amazing to get that kind of support on social media, and has been such a massive part of the success of this book.
Yeah, you mentioned Don Winslow. I mentioned you before we went on. That's how I first heard about you, was through this award-winning author. I don't know how this guy sleeps, because he does so much just on Twitter and social media alone. Hey, gotta ask you, this is wonderful, of course. The book is a runaway success. Hollywood, of course, comes calling. That's great news. But also, this is a 2-book deal. We don't expect you to give anything away. It's early stages, but are you taking a little break, or are you actually working on this second novel?
I took a few days off to get, a couple of good full nights sleep, and kind of, lay on my couch and stare off into space and go, what in the world just happened? So I did give myself a few days to kind of catch my breath, but I'm back in it. It was a 2-book deal, and I have the unbelievable honor and privilege of being able to write another story that's going to be published. So every day, all day, I'm working on book 2, and I couldn't be more proud and thrilled to say that.
Wow, we're super excited to have you on Our City Tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy time from writing too. We want to just say to our viewers, stay tuned, because later on in the show we are going to have a book giveaway, and we definitely know you want to get this book in your hands.
That's coming up later in the show, as Leah said. TJ Newman, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for keeping us awake with this great book, and continued success. I know we're going to hear a lot more from you.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, we're back here at Hydra, and it looks like we're about to wrap up the show, Jim.
We are. Before we go, though, as we always like to do, let's send out a big shout of thanks to Claire and Mark and Christopher McFadden, all the staff here. But you want to give a special thank to a guy that always starts out our day nicely here.
Oh, Chris. Chris always brings us great coffees in the morning, and we really, really appreciate him so much.
He's here every weekday if you want to come in and get great service and a great happy hour. I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight. Don't forget to check out past episodes and individual interviews, all on the Our City Tonight YouTube channel. Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.